Because Saturday morning, you're stuck with me one more time in John's Gospel. He's just pulling all the stops out. And let me just read it to you, okay? And then I'll give you at the end, okay? Jesus said to this Saturday, okay? Jesus said to his disciples, "If you know me, then you will also know my Father. From now on, you do know him and have seen him." Philip, I love this guy. Philip said to Jesus, "Master, show us the Father, and that'll be enough for us." No kidding. Jesus said to him, "Have I been with you so long? And you still do not know me, Philip? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. Okay? How can you say, 'Show us the Father'? Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father in me? The words that I speak to you, I don't speak on my own. The Father who dwells in me is doing his works. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or else believe because of the works themselves. Amen, I say to you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I do. Think of the church. And will do greater ones than these. Think of the martyrs, because I'm going to the Father. And whatever you ask in my name, I will do, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask anything of me in my name, I will do it. See? There I think he's talking to the church. Okay? That I say to you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I do. What is the work that he does? He dies for the faithful. It's the life of the death of the martyr. See? And it's greater. They convert the world. The death of the apostles converts the world. See? Because I'm going to the Father. Boy, John's a genius. He's seen the life of the faith in the church. He is seeing the life of the church. I know that. But it takes an enormous act of faith to believe in the church, because you see the flesh of the church. You remember back, they said, this guy, who's this guy? He's the son of a carpenter. See? You don't see him. You're looking at him. If you look at the church, you see scars, you see all kinds of stuff. That was one of the lessons I had to learn. Can I tell you the truth? I had to see the beauty of Christ in the wounded Christ of the church, and I had to especially see that in the order. When I first joined the outfit, a long time ago, 64 years ago, all seminarians, when they first join, you have a naive view of things. But one of the things that I had to learn, and it was in the beginning, they sheltered us. You got to see, it was innocent and the novitiate. You had to, if you were, those were some of the finest men in the province, okay? All things being equal. But we went to Hartford, okay? Stationed in Hartford a year. So it was 1962 to 63, so that's 60 years ago. Well, Hartford was in the boonies, the monastery. And so there were guys there that couldn't get in too much trouble because there was no place to get in trouble with. And there were alcoholics. There were a fair number of alkies, okay? And I remember I was reading in the refectory. We took our turns to read, okay? And I was reading out loud. We read that. That was what we did when we ate. We ate in silence, and somebody read to us. Read usually something theological or ecclesiastical, church history, whatever it was, okay? And see, one of the guys came in, staggered in. He was drunk, and I have to say I was distracted by it, and I was judgmental. And that carried over for a couple of years. I thought, rah, 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 rah. And one of the guys Father Owen Shark, Neil Sharkey, Owen, okay, said something, and I never forgot it. I never forgot it because I was naive, I was arrogant, I was stupid. He said to us, at least he persevered, meaning he hadn't quit. He said, at least he persevered. I hope you do too. He persevered. That's the truth. Despite his handicaps, you learn to respect the woundedness of the church. But you see that the church preaches a gospel of redemption, often to herself because of her own woundedness. I stopped looking for innocence in the church, but I look for holiness. And I see it in the woundedness of the church. I don't want her to be innocent. I want her to be human and fully divine. The divinity is what transforms what is human into eternity. I believe that. I mean it. I don't look for innocence. I don't believe in it. I don't trust it. I believe in the alcoholic who's struggling to stay sober. I mean that. The emotionally ill, those who struggled with their sanity and yet they persevered. They didn't give up on Christ, the church, the order, or themselves. Trust me. I learned more from those men who struggled with their lives than I ever learned in a theology book. I learned what the cross of Christ is really what it's about, and what Passionist life was. I found the holiness in the woundedness of the body of Christ and her woundedness. The body of Christ in that sense is feminine. It's the church. It's the order. Scarred, but magnificently beautiful. Some of the people I cherish the absolute most, the men that I saw struggle the most. The most eloquent, I'll give you one and I'll leave you alone, is after I was ordained. I was out here, actually. I came back and I visited our Baltimore monastery, and one of the priests there was really suffered deeply with alcoholism. I know. I sat next to him in the recreation room, and I said to him something to the effect, "Are you okay?" or whatever. I asked him, "Do you still have faith?" And he says, "I have hope." Remember that part. I have hope. And I have to say, that was one of the most eloquent lines I'd ever heard by anybody, any man. As he was destroying his life, he was still trying to save it. He eventually became sober and all the rest. He had a noble conclusion to his life, or actually became quite a preacher. He became almost sensational, to tell you the truth, because he rose out of the grave. Yeah, that's a true story. That's a true story. Father Hillary. Yeah. Yeah. I don't like innocence. There is no such thing. There is only the body of Christ that's wounded all the time, and yet glorious in her wounds. When Thomas wanted to see Christ, the risen Christ, he saw a wounded Christ. Put your hand on my side and your fingers in my palm. The nail wounds, they don't go away. And of course there is the wounded Christ is the martyr, but I also want to emphasize today, I've been emphasizing the martyr, but I want to emphasize the wounded sinful church, the individuals, all of us, we struggle with our sinfulness. We struggle with our habits. We struggle with the things that are crucifying to us. That is also profoundly the work of God in us, and that is the great struggle, where we share and fill up those things, wanting in the suffering of Christ. Very often it's our struggle with ourselves. I saw that. As I said, and I'll leave you alone, some of the holiest men I ever knew, who I profoundly admire, and I'm grateful to and for, were the men who had the hardest times, who struggled the most with their own mental illness or alcohol or something like that. And that's the truth. They were the wounded Christ. They were the wounded Christ. And I was blessed to be in their presence. Even though I didn't understand it at the time, I gradually learned to see them, to see Christ. That was those men who were so wounded. And that's the truth in the parish as well. That's the truth.